At the 50th International Film Festival of India, we have seen many creative things and many new initiatives. We can say that creativity at its best. Because of course, this time around, a new section of silent film is actually included in the 50th edition here. And it's not about just showing the movie, it's also playing live music with this silent movie. And the person who played yesterday with this movie is a UK-based pianist, very famous pianist, Jonny. And we have with us Jonny, music wizard. It's absolutely performance. We have seen yours, a live music performance on a silent movie. Best performance. Well, I want to ask you that how exactly this journey started? Live music performance on the movie. Was it in your mind since beginning, or something that clicked in your mind that yes, this is what I can do?
No, it's something I came to quite late, really. I began doing it about 5 years ago. I had been a pianist since I was 6 years old, I think. So I've been playing the piano for a long time, more than 40 years. And I've worked in theatre all my life, theatre and opera, so I've always been interested in musical storytelling. But I didn't start accompanying films until I met a musician in England who plays, a musician called Neil Brand, who has been playing scores for films for 30 years. And I heard him perform, and I'd never considered doing it myself until that moment. So I heard the great master in Britain of this, Neil Brand, performing, and decided that I would try it myself. Now I spend all my time doing it.
How do you prepare yourself basically? What are the things that needed basically? Because we have seen the music, we have seen live performance here, but the live performance, live music with the silent movies, probably you've already performed it earlier also, but when you see it, it's every time a new experience. How you have started working on it?
The issue of preparation is interesting because what I do is improvise music. So it is music which is created at the moment of performance rather than through a process of composing, writing music down. So the spontaneous nature of it is very important. So sometimes there isn't that much preparation, not specific to the film. So as a pianist, I do my piano practice. I work on my playing generally, but with the film, all I want to do before I start is to have in my head a decision about the sort of music I'll be playing, the kind of music, and I like to know where I'm going to start, what I'm going to do in the very first moments of the film. But other than that, it's really best not to prepare too much, but just to be ready to be absolutely focused on the film, watch it with the audience, and translate it into musical sound as it happened. Not to prepare, basically. That's what you said. Not too much. Yeah. It's just like watching a match. You don't know which next ball would be. Maybe bouncer, maybe a yorker, and still when you watch that movie with the people also, because yesterday I've seen you were watching movie along with the people there and performing it. Is there a specific notes that you have? Okay, fine. This is a happy moment now. I have this particular note to play. It's a sad moment right now. I have this particular note to play. You have already settled it. No, there's nothing decided. But I think I think like most improvising musicians, when I listen back to my performances, there are all sorts of ideas that occur repeatedly. Sometimes you do something that is entirely new for you, but sometimes you can see that there are the sorts of things that you've done before in similar circumstances. So no, it's not planned in that way, but there are certain principles at work, and to be honest, a lot of them are very much the same principles as you'd find in contemporary film composing. I'm doing a lot of the same things that a film composer today does, only the composer might have 6 weeks or 7 weeks or 8 weeks to write a score for a 2-hour film. I don't know, maybe they're writing half an hour of music, maybe 40 minutes. But as an improviser, you can create 2 hours of music in 2 hours. And so the the spontaneity is the really positive value, but the trade-off, of course, is that if you are making 2 hours of music in 2 hours, that in some ways it's imperfect. It has to be, because you know
it's a live performance.
It is, absolutely. So it's all about the immediacy, and the sport comparison is, I think, an interesting one, because that sense of just things happening absolutely in the present tense, the excitement of experiencing as it happens, rather than, oh, this is a film I've seen before, I know exactly what's going to happen, I'm going to do this here and this here. No, you're with the film
throughout,
in its present tense throughout, just like the audience.
Exactly, because I was asking this question because recalling that movie frame by frame, what's going to happen next, it's not possible. It's 2 hours movie.
No, it's not possible. And if as an improvising pianist, if you can let yourself just be in the present moment as much as possible, then all sorts of fortuitous things can happen musically, all sorts of but the thing that I enjoy about it is that no matter what happens, no matter what is effective and maybe what doesn't work so well, it's all unrepeatable. You'll never do the same thing again. It's not possible. So when the film is over...
If I ask you that, if you repeat the performance what you played yesterday or day before yesterday or last month, it's not possible at all.
No, it's not possible.
So each time it's a new creative masterpiece.
Well, it's not necessarily a masterpiece, but it's always unrepeatable. Absolutely. And I like that. I love that. So it's, in a way, it's sort of the opposite of making a film, where the film remains in history, unchanging. It's there. It is 100 years later. It's still there. But the live music, the live improvised music, it's only there at the moment of performance. It's only there for that audience in that venue and on that night, and then it's gone. And then all you can do is do something else.
Well, you rightly said that you were associated with the drama earlier. You also associated with the theatres also. Since 2014 probably, you started playing a live performance for the silent movies here. So far, how's the experience now?
Oh, it's the most fun I've had in my career. It's the most enjoyable thing I've done, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
And when you interact with people after the performance, what kind of reaction do you get?
Oh, I mean, well, last night was amazing. The audience was incredibly supportive and really excited by the event. So, do you know, quite often people say, I forgot you were there. I think when you go to the cinema to see a modern film, you're not, the sound belongs with the film. It sort of comes out the speakers, you don't see it being produced, so you don't think about the sound in the same way. But when there's a person there playing the piano, or there's an orchestra, to begin with, the audience really notices the production of sound. It's like, oh, there's a person playing. But as the film starts to happen, they gradually get involved with the film, and the sound that is being made seems to be with the film, and they forget about you. And then when the lights come up at the end, they're like, oh, look at that. So people often say, I forgot you were there.
No, as far as learning this process is concerned, because you also educational, you have a PhD also, your music, and you've done education music also. But does that degrees and that education is the only thing that you have reached to this level, or is just that a creative thing and something that X factor you should have in your mind when you play?
Yeah, the practice of improvising at the piano is not really part of a standard musical education. I think it should be, but it usually isn't. So there isn't a huge amount of teaching of improvisation goes on. I think the musicians who do it find their own way into it. And there aren't many musicians who specialize in improvising to moving image, to silent film. So I don't think it's really my education that prepared me for it, so much as working in theatre and opera for 15 years or so, and thinking a lot about how music is used within stories, how music tells stories. I mean, so I think I borrow all sorts of ideas that I've learned from working with opera and music theatre. So it's I think everyone who does it sort of does it in their own way. I think if you sort of listened to all the improvising pianists who work with film. You see everyone's come to it via their own route. There's no standard route in terms of being educated for it. It's very much a thing you piece together. Because as an improviser, you have to work with what you have musically. The things you play are related very much to the music you've heard in your life, the habits that you have, the sort of shapes that your hands are used to making on the keyboard. It's because it's so spontaneous, and there isn't often time for analytical thought. There's a lot of instinctive performance there. It can be quite revealing, I think, of who you are musically. But no, it's not so much about education.
Absolutely. Well, it's a time for a short break. We'll continue this discussion after this break. Welcome back after the break, and we have with us famous pianist Jonny, and we try to get some information that how this wizard actually play music live, and try to get some of the points from him. Sir, first of all, as we're talking about different movies that you performed on, which how do you select a movie before to perform on it? Was there any specifications that you look forward in that movie, and then you go for it?
Well, very often I don't select the films. Usually I don't select the films. If I'm engaged to perform, normally the films are selected by others. I select films for the festival that I produce in Yorkshire, and I'm looking for films which can be enjoyed by a non-specialist audience, an audience that may not be expert in silent film, but have an interest and are just as today there are great films and there are not so great films, and there are, so it's true in the silent era as well. There are great films and there are terrible films, and sometimes the terrible films are interesting, but I usually look for films which will engage an audience, really engage an audience, and make a case for silent film, because it's a sort of, in a way, it's a slightly odd thing to do, to go back to the time before synchronized sound. So you want films that really make an impact, and that demonstrate the particular qualities that silent film can have, the particular things that it can really do well. I mean, I think a really good silent film in some ways has things in common with opera. I think, in that, big emotions and really striking visuals, and the power of music and image together. So
absolutely. But when we talk about this, we talk about the sound as well. But when it comes to performance, basically, we have seen here in the past also, these movies basically we have seen here, you've actually relived that old movies. You have seen that the era of silent movies actually again, we get a chance to relive here. Because the younger generation actually, obviously silent movies they liked, but the way it's been performed with the music, it gives you another experience here. How do you see basically the response from the young generation, also those who come to watch a silent movie and they get such a pleasure?
Yes, I mean, last night was an incredibly enthusiastic audience. I think the live music creates a very distinct atmosphere. We're not used to, with films being recorded, everything being recorded, one sort of, and the film not responding, the film doesn't respond to its audience, it's fixed, it just displays. And as soon as there are human beings there creating something in the present tense, the audience gets a very different feeling. And I think that combination is really exciting. And also because the film there's such a contrast between films which are 90 years old, sometimes 100 years old or more, and then music which is absolutely being made now. In a way, you're sort of the musician is sort of the bridge between the then of the film and the now of the audience. It's a very interesting dynamic.
Well, you yourself also organized a silent film festival. You're being part of the IFFI this time around, and it's the first time they're here in India.
It is.
And first time you're in IFFI.
Yeah.
How's the experience here?
Oh, it's lovely. It's really nice. I've been made to feel very welcome, and I love the atmosphere of the festival. It's a really beautiful festival.
What are you looking forward now in IFFI?
What am I looking forward to?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward most just to wandering around Goa and soaking up the atmosphere. It's and also, when I left home, it was freezing cold and grey and rainy. So to come here and be in the sun and by a beautiful beach and India has also got a very rich history also, and a very old history of a musical drama. And the unique segment that you have come up with, it has a connection with the India also. Are we going to see Jonny Best again in India performing it probably, and creating a fan base in India as well? Well, I hope so. I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back. I mean, I think I understand what you mean about the India's tradition of music and theatre, and I think that silent film with live music does sort of fit into that idea that complex stories can be told with images and music without needing spoken word. I think the silent film connects up with all of those traditions of music theatre. Yeah, I hope very much to come back.
So we can say that probably a new project probably will be in India, if possible, if you get a chance.
I'd love to. Yes. Yes.
Right. Well, before performing, on any of the silent music or before your performance, what exactly preparation you does? What things going on in your mind before performing any particular performance of the movie?
Well, I try not to have too much going through my mind. If it's a film I played before, then there might be, like last night's film, there might be a scene in it that I just want to remind myself of, so I might just watch that particular scene. Maybe if it's a complicated action scene, I might want to remind myself of just how long it is, so that I can pace my music. But really, I like to know that I've got enough energy. So I might just have a little something to eat. Bananas are good. Cup of coffee. So tonight's film is 2.5 hours, and so the most important thing really is to make sure that I'm ready to be at that piano for 2.5 hours, and that I'm not going to get tired halfway through. So being rested and having had some nutritious food, and then really just being there for the filming. It's all about being in the present tense. So not too much preparation, not too much thinking about things beforehand. I think to improvise well, it's important just to trust that it'll be fine. Just show up.
As you started this journey in 2014, now where do you see that you're heading towards?
Oh, I don't know. I think what I do know is that the experience of improvising to film, of creating a sound world for a film with an audience, is the most enjoyable thing I've done in my career, and I want to keep doing that. So for me, I think the most important thing is that I hope to keep having experiences like this, going to interesting places and doing it for audiences who enjoy it.
Do you think that it has a scope in India also?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, why not? Why not? And if last night's anything to go by, there's an enthusiastic audience for it. Yeah, I mean, but silent film with live music, I think, could work almost anywhere because it isn't language dependent. So it's truly international.
What's the new project that we're going to see in future from Jonny West?
Oh, well, I don't know what the answer to that is really, except that I spend a lot of time looking for films to screen in Yorkshire, where I live. Looking for unusual, interesting films, and also new films, of course, because when I say new films, most silent films, around 80% of films that were made in the silent era, are lost. They don't exist anymore. They were either destroyed in sort of accidental fires that happened in studio vaults, or they've just been mislaid since they were screened in 1915, 1920, 1920. But every year, films turn up. Every year there are films rediscovered. And what I particularly love is when a film is rediscovered and we see it again for the first time in 70 years or 80 years, is taking those films to audiences. And every year there are interesting discoveries. So that's a very exciting area of this type of work.
India has also got the history of silent films here. Are we going to see Jonny West performing on one of the silent film of India if you get a chance?
Well, I've screened Indian silent film in the United Kingdom, in Britain, but with an Indian pianist, a wonderful Indian pianist called Udsaf Lal, who, if you haven't heard of, you should have him here because he's amazing. So yeah, I've not played for Indian silent films.
If opportunity gets.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Which is your favorite silent film? Which era probably? Any particular director that you admire?
Well, I love Alfred Hitchcock's silent films, particularly the film we're screening here tomorrow, Blackmail, which is really a sort of classic Hitchcock thriller. All of the elements of style that we know from Hitchcock in the 40s and 50s are in place in this film from 1929. I think it's one of the most perfect silent films ever made. It's absolutely remarkable. I must have played it about 15 times now, but I love to play it. So,
Thank you, Jonny West, for your time here. And of course, we wish in future we see some of the best masterpieces from you. Well, that was Jonny West to DD News exclusively. Of course, Jonny West have come to India for the first time, and in future probably we may see some of his best project in India as far as silent movies concerned and the live performance is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.